I don't advocate that people do what I did. Like I did have, obviously I had a financial runway behind me. I'd saved a lot of money and I was willing to invest some of my savings in reinventing myself. Not everyone's willing to do that at the scale that I did, and I totally understand that. But micro bravery is about saying, like, how can I do one thing every day that makes me feel uncomfortable but enables me to move closer to where I want to be?
Hey, and welcome to the Forties Formula, your go-to place for insightful discussions on navigating the 40s and thriving in this transformative decade.
We're your hosts, Jasmin and Amanda, two women that are passionate about exploring the challenges and adventures that come with turning 40 and what lies ahead.
Hi, Penny. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.
Oh, it's our pleasure. So, Penny, people would say that you were almost living the dream. You had a high-flying career, you're in a long-term relationship, you have a child, but you weren't happy.
Yeah.
In the midst of all those changes, which was the hardest for you? I mean, true. If we're getting serious here, was it the career, the family, the relationship?
That's a really good question, and no one's ever asked me that. I think it was the career. I think it was the career because it wasn't that I was miserable in my career, and I wasn't, sad or depressed or anything like that. It was that career had served me for such a long period of time, but it was no longer in alignment with who I wanted to be as the woman, stepping into her 40s and the next iteration of her life. And that's why I think what you guys are doing is so interesting, because I feel like, 40 is such a pivotal decade in really owning and connecting in, for many of us, with who we want to be in the world, because it's kind of that point where we sort of step back and go, am I where I want to be? And is where I want to be still in alignment with who I want to be?
What would you say is the sort of difference between flourishing and the traditional concept of success?
I think many of us have not asked ourselves what success looks like for us on our terms. So we've almost been caught up in this kind of trajectory through the constructs that we're put through, be that, school, be that, university education, and then into our careers. We've been sold a definition of success, which is often, it's always more often than not, it's related to external validation points. It's either I can now afford a nice car, I can now afford a nice home, I now have, that degree on the wall. So it's all external validation, whereas flourishing is really about the internal. So it's about, am I fulfilled and getting meaning from the way I'm living my life? Do I have strong relationships that actually make me feel joyful and feel connected? So they're kind of, that I look at it, one as kind of the definition of success we've been sold is more often than not someone else's, not our own. And flourishing is really about getting clear on what are the things that bring you fulfillment and meaning and joy and make you feel at one with the world. That's the stuff that's actually going to make you, I think, show up as the person you want to be in life. And equally as a parent, I know, which many of your listeners probably are, be the role models that so many women tell me they want to be for their kids.
And I think, here in Singapore especially, right, we are in the extreme version of a meritocracy. There is one way of success, and it is making money and being a doctor or a lawyer. And I mean, that's a big generalization, but honestly, it isn't. My husband is Singaporean Chinese, and even within his family where those aren't the expectations, he is still a doctor. Okay, let's be real. And so it's woven into the fabric here. And I think that when you have a culture like that, and again, Singapore might be the extreme. I think maybe Australia, America, UK have elements of this. I think the opposite, what you're talking about, right? Living your truth and finding your authentic self, it's seen as at odds with success, right? You can't, all that stuff is woo-woo and hippy-dippy, and wouldn't it be nice if I could be my own person, but I got to make money and I got to make this achievement. How do you, coming from the corporate world, I feel like you're positioned to help people step out of that and understand that there is life outside the meritocracy. How do you do it?
Yeah, I think the first one, there's two things. One is appreciating the fact that change comes with compromise. Change is choice. And you need to be very clear on the choices that you're willing to make and the sacrifices you're willing to make if you do want to live a life that, does enable you to flourish. And there will be sacrifices. It took me a long time to let go. Like, attachment is probably the other thing, understanding what you're attached to that's no longer serving you and how that attachment holds you back. So it's fine to say, yeah, I want to have this success, I want to earn all of this money. But what I see so much of is people with that, as you say, that definition of success where it's like, okay, I've got to make money, I need to be the doctor and the lawyer. And so many of them are burnt out and unhappy. Okay, so I suppose the question, you need to ask yourself is, am I happy to continue to be unhappy and burnt out, and earn lots of money? Is that how I want to live my life? And if you say yes, that's fine, because the challenge is it's at least an intentional choice. But if the answer is no, then you need to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice to make a shift? Because you will have to make sacrifices and you will have to let go of some of the things that you are attached to. And I'll never forget, for me, the hardest part in the first 2 years, my identity was so ingrained in the success that I had and the title that I had and the company that I worked for. It was extremely hard for me to go to a barbecue and someone say, what is it that you do? And I was like, I don't even know what I do. And because I'd allowed that to define who I am, and I don't think a job should define who you are.
Hey, Amanda, picture this. You're in your 40s.
I am.
You're working, you're raising kids, you're breastfeeding, and you're hungry.
That sounds about right.
But you're not going to feed yourself and your family any old crap.
No, that's actually why we use the Meat Club. The Meat Club is the premier source for top quality Australia and New Zealand produce right here in Singapore.
And if you're tired of the endless struggle of meal planning, guess what? The Meat Club subscription service delivers top quality meat direct to your door.
And we have a little treat for our listeners. As a new customer, you can get $12 off with the discount code TFF12 with no minimum spend. Discounts are only valid, though, through the website, themeatclub.com.sg.
And for more updates, recipes, and special offers, don't forget to follow The Meat Club on Instagram at themeatclubsg. Now back to the chat. And I think fear seems to be one of the biggest things, that tends to hold women back. Fear of, I guess, being judged, fear of not having the financial security. How can you overcome that and sort of take this step if you're not happy and you do want to make a change? And is it possible? Can you just sort of throw in the towel when you don't have, I guess, that sort of financial security or that stability? How is it possible? Or how can someone make it possible?
Yeah, and so you're absolutely right. So I've been running a program on fear for years with women and how to tackle fear. And the top 3 fears, the number one fear of change is financial instability. It's fear of judgment, what others will think of me. Yeah. And the third one is fear of failure. What if it doesn't work out?
Oh, yeah.
What if I'm not on the right path? Which I hate this, how do I find the right plan before I make a start? Because there is no right plan and there's no right path. There could be a million, right? So one of the things that I teach, which I absolutely love and I use myself still to this day, is micro bravery. And so I don't advocate that people do what I did. I did have, obviously I had a financial runway behind me. I'd saved a lot of money and I was willing to invest some of my savings in reinventing myself. Not everyone's willing to do that at the scale that I did, and I totally understand that. But micro bravery is about saying, how can I do one thing every day that makes me feel uncomfortable but enables me to move closer to where I want to be? Okay, because the reality is, whatever it is that you want to shift or change, the reason you haven't done it already is because of fear. There's a block. Yeah, that's what's holding you back. So the only way to tackle fear, that's the most effective way to tackle fear, is exposure therapy. And so exposure therapy can be practiced through doing one small thing every day that makes you feel uncomfortable. It doesn't matter how tiny it is. So maybe, for example, it's reaching out to someone you've long admired who's living their life the way you'd love to live it and asking them if they would share their story over a coffee. Maybe, it's putting your first blog up on LinkedIn about something that you want to be an expert in. Maybe it's changing your title on Instagram to showing up as being perceived as what it is that you want to be. Like, these sound like small things, but for some people they're massive things. But these are acts of micro bravery. So just do one small thing every day that makes you feel uncomfortable. And what you'll start to realize is it will build your courage and your confidence to step into bigger acts of bravery over time, which means that it will start to propel your propensity to actually make the shift. Because what we fear, what we fear and the way we perceive the things that we're scared of, up here, it's massive. In our heads, it's massive. In the real world, it's tiny. And often people don't even freaking notice if you change your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, real talk. And Penny, what you said resonates so much with me because I went through something similar, not quite as overwhelming, and all-encompassing as what you did. But I was in my PhD program and I was doing personal training as a side gig. Like so many of our passion projects, right? They start as side gigs and you realize this is the gig. This is my life's gig, right? But I remember having a conversation during a study group with one of my close friends in the program. And I was like, I'm just going to drop it. I'm just going to say to her, I'm thinking of leaving the program. Like, I'm just going to say it. I didn't leave the program. I didn't tell anybody. I'm just going to say the words and see how they come out and see what her reaction is, right? As my closest friend in the program.
Yeah.
And I remember just like that whole study session being terrified of dropping the bomb. And then finally I said, I think I might just take the master's and go and then open my training and nutrition business full time. And she was like, I can't believe you haven't done that already. How have you not done that already? And I was like, oh my God. And it was so valid. Like, she knew, everyone in the program knew, they saw the writing on the wall. I just couldn't admit it yet. And after I had the conversation with her, then I was able to tell my family, and then I was able to tell my advisor. And then I walked off with that master's degree, started my business, and I have never looked back. That was almost 18 years ago. And the micro bravery of that first conversation is exactly, you nailed it. That's what it was.
And what a beautiful story, right? Because you've just, a lot of people talk about, manifestation. And I always love the concept of manifestation because it's like this belief that, you put it out into the world and the fairies deliver shit, It's like, from a psychological perspective, you can manifest things. And what you've just done is exactly that. Manifestation is actually telling the world what it is that you want, because the more that you vocalize the things that you're afraid to say that you actually want, the more the world can help you make that thing happen. And I think as women, we're so damn good at thinking, if I just do a good job, if I try really hard, someone might notice and someone might be a mind reader and work out that I want all these things and just magically arrive and give them to me. It's not how the world works. Yeah. And so, like you said, getting it out of your head and just putting a voice to whatever it is that you want, if that is the only thing you do in the next week and you do it with someone that's really safe to do it with, which is what you did, I guarantee you that is an act that is going to move you closer to whatever it is that you want. It's like a stepping stone, and every little stepping stone of micro bravery is what gets you to where you want to be. Not taking, someone said to my son's an amazing soccer player, and someone said to him the other week, he faltered when he was going to take a shot, and it was like, where'd the confidence go? And they said to him, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, I can use that in my work. That's freaking amazing. And this is the thing, I see so many women that just aren't taking the shots. They're more than capable, yeah. And this is the other thing that kills me, and especially women our age that I see, it's these women that are over-credentialing. It's like, I need to go and study a million things, right, before I can put myself out there as that thing. And they're not trying to be doctors. They're not doing surgery on people. The things that they are learning are things that they could, in many ways, practically apply right now, but they delay the application of the learning and they become self-development junkies. And all it does, it's actually the development and the constant learning becomes the barrier to application and actually doing what you want to do. So I say that to create awareness, because I know there are many women in that domain. Get out there and fucking do something. It's great to learn, but if you're learning without application, it's knowledge without skill.
Yeah. That resonates, again, so hard as someone who was in that exact cycle, right? I was like, no one will listen to me if I don't have a PhD behind my name. That'll limit my business forever. And here we are.
And I feel like that as well, doing what we do. I feel like, if we're not doctors, are people really going to take us seriously? But they do.
Yeah. Yeah. They realize, hey, you know what? You might actually know something even without, the doctor before your name.
Because we've got the experience of it as well, like living through things. And that kind of takes me on to my next question, which is, what about women who are busy? They say, I want to do something. I just don't have the time. I'm busy with work. I'm busy with my family. I barely have time to see my friends. Like, how can they sort of move towards flourishing?
So the first thing I'll say is my fundamental belief, and I have run programs around the world with thousands across cultures around the concept of busy, and my belief is busy equals bullshit. Okay, so, and the reason I say this is because busy as a word has no real meaning. Yeah, so it has no meaning. And what I have discovered from the work that I do in this domain is busy is code for something else. So, if your listeners go back into their memory bank and remember the last time they told someone they were busy, and then ask themselves, what was the conversation in my head? What was I really saying? And more often than not, like I said, I've run this little exercise all around the place. More often than not, busy is code for I'm overwhelmed. I've got too much on my plate. I feel like I'm never enough and it's never enough. Yeah, I don't have capacity for that. I'm a people-pleasing perfectionist and I can't say no. Like, there's so many different codes that sit behind busy. So actually, awareness is the first step to any change. So identifying what you are really saying when you're saying busy is a really powerful way to start to address the busy. The second thing that I would say is remove the word from your vocabulary, because that means you're going to have to be honest with yourself about what you're actually saying when you say you're busy. So one of the things I am a massive fan of, cognitive behavioral therapy in the psych world is one of the most powerful ways to make change, right? Which is basically, it's basically reframing. And your words are a brilliant way to reframe your inner conversation and how you show up in the world. And a beautiful example of this which started my whole work in the busy domain, was about 7 years ago. I stopped using the word busy. And instead I swapped it out and started to use the word positively engaged. Now, it sounds crazy.
I like it. Girl, yes.
But what happened was, when people would stop me in the street, rather than give them the default, which we all do, I'm busy, when they ask me how I am, which is not a conversation opener, it's actually a conversation closer, okay? So it doesn't actually help you get to where you want to be quicker. It actually disconnects you from people, which I don't think is ideal either. But I would say, when they'd ask me how I am, I'm positively engaged, people would stop dead in their tracks, because it was so unexpected. And they would say to me, what do you mean? Like, what are you doing? And I would say, my life is full, but I'm doing things that I love. And then they were like, well, again, it opens the conversation. How did you get to that? Why are you, how are you so different? Okay. So I would challenge your listeners, if they want to create or step closer towards flourishing on their terms, do what I call the busy equals bullshit challenge. Remove the word from your vocabulary for 1 week and just observe what happens. You can replace it with another word, like I did, to reframe your mindset, or you can just not use it and watch what happens in your mind, because a busy mind will go to anxiety. It's only a matter of time. It will just spin the hamster wheel faster the more you say the word. But equally, watch how it changes how you engage with people. And how, by having more open conversations rather than closed ones, because you're shutting them down with busy, can actually unlock the door to opportunities you never imagined possible.
Amanda, I just discovered this super awesome, good for your health, supports your gut and immune system drink.
Okay, tell me more.
Akisi Tropical. Just dilute it in some sparkling water and it tastes like you're sitting in the sun on an island far away.
Oh, and I actually love their new berry flavor too. It has the trifecta, pre, post, and probiotics. Akisi's science-forward approach means that I'm getting all the good stuff without any of the nasties, and I can enjoy it any time of day.
And the best thing, you can get 15% off full-priced items and free delivery when you use code FORTIES for any purchase in Singapore from their website, akisiwellness.com.
Don't forget to try their elderberry boost and probiotic base products, which are actually perfect for babies too. And now, back to the conversation. Okay, so pop quiz, Jasmin. So if Penny is positively engaged, what are you instead of busy?
It's actually really funny. I was going to say that I had a conversation with my sister yesterday, a brief conversation where I told her, I'm really busy. I'll speak to you on Tuesday. And I feel terrible. Oh my God, Sarita, I'm really, really sorry. What I meant to say was I actually feel overwhelmed. There's a lot going on and I do want to speak to you, but that was not the right time for me to sort of open up and have that conversation. But I will call you on Tuesday, I promise.
So maybe you should tell her that when you speak to her on Tuesday. I'll bet you it might change her.
I will.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How beautiful.
So, Penny, you're on a mission to help 10 million women flourish by 2025. So what steps or strategies do you feel that women can take to start achieving, I guess, I don't know, is flourishment a word?
I was thinking flourishment. I was like, let's use this.
Can we say that? Flourishment? I've just created a new word.
So look, I use the word flourishing because my background's in psych, and flourishing is basically the scientific term that speaks to living a wholehearted and fulfilled life, like we spoke about, with really good connections, and doing things that actually make you, that fill you up. The first place that I would start, if you want to live a more flourishing life, there's two things I would recommend. The first one would be sit down and ask yourself, what does a flourishing day look like for me? Now, I think we're very good and we're sold by the external environment, create long-term goals, aim high, go big. I think that many women need to remove that piece because we're really good at it and actually focus on the day that you have in front of you. So what would an average flourishing day look like? What would you be doing? Who would you be doing it with? How would you be feeling? And then ask yourself, what are the micro moments that make you feel that way? What are the things? So I know for me, the micro moments that I have the power to bring into each day that recharge my batteries and make me feel like I'm flourishing is always some form of exercise. And always at the start of the day, because how I start my day sets the tone for my day. I know that meditating for me is really important, and journaling, because journaling allows me to get the shit out of my head onto a piece of paper so it doesn't block me in my day. It's about having moments of connection with my son and my dog, being out in nature. So these don't have to be hours and hours of things. It's like these are the micro moments throughout the day that enable me to feel like I'm flourishing. Equally, they recharge your batteries and make you feel good in terms of, your mind gets recharged, so you're more focused and more productive, and your physiology gets recharged, which you would know all about, Amanda, because you've taken that moment to sort of give back to yourself. So that would be the first thing. The other thing that I am a massive advocate of, because of my studies with Dr. Gabor Mate, is that one of the things women are terrible at is being compassionate to themselves. We are brilliant at showing compassion for everybody else. So if the only thing you take away from this podcast is to ask yourself on a daily basis, what would self-compassion look like for me today? And you do that thing, that is going to make you feel a little bit more flourishing in each day. And you two, as mothers of three, I guarantee that's something that you probably don't do a lot of either. So what does self-compassion look like for you ladies today?
Yeah, that is so, so helpful because you're absolutely right. I mean, we were talking off air about how I have a newborn and luckily it's my third go round with this, but I'm in a circle now with a lot of new moms, a lot of first time moms. And you are absolutely right, Penny. I would say the biggest barrier between the first time moms that I'm kind of in a room with and me is that they do not give themselves any grace. You know, their bodies aren't good enough, their babies aren't good enough, their parenting style isn't right, their kids aren't sleeping correctly. And it's like, whoa. Like, let that all chill, you know? And it's hard to say, right, to a first-time mom that's in the trenches 100%. But if you show yourself a little bit of compassion with each of these comparisons, that they start to dissolve. You know, if you take away the kind of negative self-talk and the comparing to other moms, it actually just disappears. It really does. It's just easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, the other word that you should be looking at, you know, if you're in that domain where it's like, you know, women constantly say to me, I feel like I'm never enough and it's never enough. And I honestly believe this is driven by what I call the layers of should. Yeah, so we should all over ourselves. And the more we should, the less connected we are to our essence. It's the less connected we are to what we actually want. And so many women, when I ask them what it is that they want when they arrive on my doorstep for coaching, they don't know because they're so busy shooting all over themselves and pleasing everyone else that they're completely disconnected from what it was in the first place that actually made them feel like they were flourishing. And that's where I start a lot of my work. It sounds crazy, like smart, educated women don't know what they want because they've invested so much time trying to be something that they felt they should be rather than who they actually are.
And I think there might be some women out there who are thinking, shit, you know what? I'm old now. I'm in my 40s. It's too late. It's just, you know, what's the point? I'll just keep doing what I'm doing.
This is how it is.
Yeah, this is my life and, you know, this is what I've picked or chosen. What would you say to those women?
Bullshit. As someone who went back to university to do a second master's at the age of 47 and went to study trauma with, as I said, one of the top trauma therapists in the world at the age of 48, you can still live your dreams no matter what age you're at. And I know that there's research out there that says women are the most successful female entrepreneurs are the women that go into it in their 40s. And I think it comes back to, we had an offline conversation before we started this podcast where we were actually saying, like, for me, like I'm at the back end of my 40s, but I call it, you know, it's like my zero fucks decade. It's like there is something about being older, wiser and more mature where it's almost like you have permission to let go of, you know, caring so much what other people think of you because you realise, you have this epiphany that it's like, there are people in the world, no matter how good I am, how kind I am, how amazing I am, how credentialed I am, that still won't freaking like me, that will still judge me. There will always be haters on social media, no matter what you do. So you can allow that to hold you back. You can allow that to inform the story that you tell yourself as a reason not to, or you can sit there and go, I'm not attached to it because I can't control it. There's nothing I'm ever going to be able to do about that, but what I can control is who I want to be and how I want to show up and what I hear so often from mothers and the role model that I want to be to my child. And so if that's kind of where you want to play, your age is irrelevant. There are people at the age of 70 running marathons. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
that's incredible,
absolutely.
Isn't it?
Well, and you know what you said about kind of dropping the likability piece. You know, somebody once told me, you won't be everyone's cup of tea, but for those who you are, they're coming back for refills. You know, and it's like I use that in my entrepreneur career as well. It's like, you know, the way that I coach and the way that I view fitness and health is not for everyone. But for those who it is, they coming back for refills. So free refills here, guys.
We have actually come to the end of the interview today, and we really appreciate, you know, all of the knowledge and stuff that you have given us. It's been absolutely wonderful. But before we finish up, we have a question that we ask all of our guests, and it is, what's your 40s formula? What sort of wisdom would you share with our audience, those that are in their 40s, about how they can thrive in this decade?
I love this idea of a 40s formula. I feel like I should have been better prepared on this, but it's like, the brain works in threes. So I would say start doing what you want. Ask yourself what you want to do and start doing it, because not enough women do what you want. So that's the first thing. Do what you want. It doesn't have to be like I did, but something small, an act of micro bravery, and keep doing that. Do what you want. Show yourself self-compassion. and do it on a daily basis, because women have over 70% of their internal dialogue on average is negative. And the thing is, the more you speak to yourself negatively, the more you'll project, like basically you won't come across as confident. And if you don't believe in you, no one else is going to believe in you and give you what you want. Yeah. So self-compassion, be kind to yourself. And the third thing is just have a go. Don't be attached to an outcome playing out a certain way, because there are so many things that you cannot control. But I guarantee you, if you step towards the things that make you feel good, towards flourishing, and you do micro acts of bravery every day in that direction, I'll guarantee you where you'll land will not be where you expected, but you will find joy in that journey more so than perhaps what you are now.
I love it. Do it bravely, and just do it. Yeah. If that doesn't get you off your seat, I can't imagine what will.
Thank you so much for having me, ladies.
Thank
you,
so
Penny.
much.
This has been so inspiring. I feel like, we're going to get out there and do it now after talking to you.
Guys, you know how much we love coffee. And if you want to show us some love, you can get us one.
Just visit buymeacoffee.com/the40s formula. Cheers.
Gizzy Man left us this review. All the episodes are making me fact-check the supplements I'm taking. Love the detailed discussion with real-life people talking about their experiences. Just makes it more interesting and relatable.
Thank you so much, Gizzy. We try to keep it real as much as possible here, and we are going to keep that real-life discussion coming to you in our seasons to come. Before we go, please remember to hit subscribe and take a moment to support the 40s Formula by leaving a review on your favorite podcast platform.
Your reviews will help us to reach more people and allow us to continue to bring valuable content. It should only take a moment, and it's a free way for you to support the show.
You can also stay updated with the 40s Formula by following us on Instagram at the 40s Formula, all one word. We share behind-the-scenes insights, episode updates, and much more, so please be sure to hit that follow button.
We appreciate your time and support. Thank you for being part of this community, and we'll be back next week for more empowering conversations with inspiring guests.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh, look at that. I've got the thumbs up. Don't you love Zoom? Yeah. Start doing what...
I love
it. The listeners can't see it, but now we've got like sparkles and fireworks behind me on Zoom.
Fireworks.